what's happening, my friends? Welcome to this little walkthrough that I'm going to do about processing vocals. I am testing out my new green screen so you can see two angles from me, one from behind on my Mavo camera so you can see the studio setup here at home. And also, this is me talking directly to you with the green screen. And if you flick that round, you can see me sat in the corner of the screen, so you can not just hear my dulcet Scottish tones, but you can also see my handsome Celtic looks. All right, enough shit talk. Let's get to it. Okay, so this is vocals that I have just been sent by MC Enemy for the forthcoming Power Stomp album. This is Power Stomp Volume 3. Yeah, I'm just going to do a really quick walkthrough on some of the stuff I would do with the vocals. I have heard a rough guide to the vocals, what he sent over WhatsApp, and it looked and sounded really good. So yeah, I'm going to be doing you guys a little walkthrough on what I would potentially do to the processing, EQing, layering, all this kind of stuff. So I've asked Enemy to send me over the vocals just as is, no processing. They're all in mono, and I'm going to do some work to make them a bit bigger, wider, fatter, everything else that they need so it fits perfect in the track. Cool. So let's get rolling. Listen to guide vocal first of all, that he's sent over with the music behind that has been prepared for the track that myself and M project I've been working on.
We're making you move in the dance, making you feel so alive in the dark. Yeah, look at my jaw like a pit bull. We're killing it, music and bars. Power stomp with the bass, kicking the fuck out of dubs in the rave. Hold tight to your whole squad, we're lethal, taking you fast. So you know what to think if the riot starts. Shit goes south immensely. Was a lethal boy back in the day when the bassline was aggy. Then we had that phase of the dubs, so we sacked that shit from the music. More power stomp than dub core, but the bass is what we all came for. When that bassline rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it. When you hear the snare hitting to the drums, yeah, we're gonna tear you all up in a rave. Yeah, we're killing it.
Nice. Don't want to give too much away in terms of the drop, but I mean, really cool vocal. He's always been my favourite MC to work with, and as the years go on, it just gets better and better. He's one of those guys who, I mean, I write a lot of lyrics as well for Destructive Tendency stuff, and I have done one for the album as well. But his writing's just got such a unique form to it, where he makes stuff that doesn't rhyme but still seems to flow, and that's a severe talent. That anybody that writes lyrics knows it's not an easy thing. Anyway, let's get to this processing. So we've got a top layer main vocal, super quiet. We're going to turn these all up first of all.
We're making you move in the dance, making you feel so alive in the dark. Look at my jaw like a pit bull, we're killing it, music and bars. Power stomp with the bass, kicking the fuck out of dubs in the rave.
Okay, so a bit of swearing there. Let's maybe beat that out. Let's just see. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to group all the vocals up. Really easy in Ableton. You can either just right click and group tracks, or Command and G, or Control and G, depending if you're Mac or PC. So that'll be the vocal group, because we'll process maybe the vocals separately in each channel, but we'll also process the group as well. And Ableton's really good for doing groups within groups and all that. We might get to that stage, because I mean, one of the things I will want to do before I do anything is I'm just going to get rid of any low rumble. I'm going to use Pro Q3 for this. It's quite surgical. You can use Ableton's own EQ, and I do use that quite a lot, but you can really get to see what happens under the bonnet. Same thing, I guess. All right, so we're going to look at this top vocal first of all.
We're making you move in the dance, making you feel so alive in the dark.
So we can see here where the vocal's actually doing stuff. All this from here to here, you know, in these lower registers is probably just noise. It's been picked up from the microphone or the room, wherever. Generally happens a lot with live recordings.
We're making you move in the dance, making you feel so alive in the dark.
You see, when I just move the EQ, put a cut on it, and just move it up there, you can see and hear that it doesn't affect the vocal whatsoever. And if you, the little cool thing for Pro Q3 is if you hit this little headphone button, you can listen to what is below in the frequency range. So you can kind of hear where it starts to come in. So it's starting to come in about 130, 140. There's something coming in.
Someone you know what to think if the writing starts. Shit goes south immense.
So that's his voice. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to really quickly actually before we put that onto the other channels, because this is a mono signal, I'm just going to duplicate this. We're going to group that. So this is going to be the main vocal, and this is in. So we've got a group within a group, main vocal. I'm going to take that EQ that I put on there. I'm just going to drag it and drop it onto this main vocal group, and that's going to then process this one and this one. Why you're doing two vocals, Joey? I hear you ask. Well, we want to make this stereo. It's two mono signals. So, I mean, it is already making it kind of stereo here, but with a little bit of panning, we can make it through the night. A little bit of panning, we can... garage reference for anyone that's into that. I'm just going to pan one left, one right slightly.
Shit goes south immensely. Was a lethal boy, but the bass is what you came for. When that bass line rolls.
Ooh.
When the kick drum hits.
Power. Now, I tend to find with my voice is can sometimes be a little thin when I'm processing, so I do quite a lot of compression and EQ on mine. It sounds a little bit thin in places here, but obviously you're not really hearing that as much when the music's going, but I want to be able to make it nice and thick. And then, you know, I can go in and EQ some more frequencies out if it needs to be in the track. I want to fan it up as much as I can. And there's a bunch of different ways we can do that. So we're just going to concentrate on this main vocal for now. Obviously, we've got our kind of low cut, simple EQ, which I guess we could put. Let's just group these all up for talking sake just now. So we're going to call that the layers. We'll take this same EQ and we just drag it, hit alter option, and it copies it onto there with the exact same settings. Enable them. Great.
Hey, when the bass line was aggy. Shit for the music. What were you came for?
Now, unless he'd be saying something in a real lower register, then that's the only reason I would maybe cut something. Move the low cut further down. But he's saying everything in the same kind of register. So
yeah, we're killing it. Yeah, we're killing it.
So we've got these layers where he's saying the same kind of thing. I would probably, with these, I'm just going to turn this one up a bit so it's a bit the same as the one on above. So we've got one shot, small field, yeah, we're killing it. But these layers, you can see here, he's saying the same thing here, here, here. So we'll probably do a bit of panning with these. Because we've got different ones here, we'll probably keep this one down the centre. And we'll maybe move this one. Let's move them a bit further out than the main vocal, because then it's creating a different kind of stereo width. Let's go 30, see how that sounds. So I'm doing real simple stuff before I get to any like crazy processing with compressors and stuff.
Yeah, we're killing it! Yeah, we're killing it! Yeah, we're killing it! Drum hits! Yeah, we're killing it! When you hear the snare hitting to the drums, yeah, we're gonna tear you all up in a rave! Yeah, we're killing it!
Just turn it down a bit. I was hearing it at the start and I was wondering what it was, because all these were all sitting nice under the 0 decibels, but then if I looked at the main vocal, it's just because of doubling stuff up, it's creating extra volume.
Bassline rolls! Yeah, we're killing it! When the kick drum hits! Yeah, we're killing it! When you hear the snare hitting to the drums, yeah, we're gonna tear you all up in a rave! Yeah, we're killing it!
So we're just trying to get balance with that.
Yeah, we're killing it! When the kick drum hits! Yeah, we're killing it!
I mean, straight away, that sounds awesome, man. And I've not even done any real processing, just getting rid of some low rumble and a bit of panning with the layers. It sounds awesome. So yeah, let's check it here.
Some of you know what to think if the riot starts. Shit goes south immensely. Was a lethal boy back in the day when the bassline was aggy. Then we had that phase of the dubs, so we sacked that shit from the music.
Okay, cool. So let's go into some compression and some other bits and pieces. So now he's recorded in his mic, but one of the things you can actually probably see it in the corner in the other studio shot. Hopefully it's still running. It says Rode there, but that's just the cover. But my microphone here is a Slate digital microphone, which is a grey mic because it's a completely like flat response pretty much, and it comes with some plugins which model a bunch of really famous mics. Some of them are like 30 grand mics, which instead of spending £1,000 a mic, I thought I would spend a lot less and get the option of using all these copies of these analog modelled mics. So it's a really great mic, and I've been wanting it for years, well, literally since it came out. I'm lucky enough to get it relatively recently. Spit it out, Joe. Relatively recently. So I'm just going to create. This is the Slate Digital rack. Obviously, if you don't use this, then you won't be able to, go through this. But it's really cool. But I will use a bunch of other compression and stuff from some other plugins. But you don't have to use these. You can use another version, or even Ableton's own plugins are really cool. I do use them a lot, but if you've got these expensive ones, you might as well use them. So first thing I want to do is pick my microphone. So I just got the new Blackbird Studio one, so we'll just drop that in here. We'll pick a microphone, which you can do by clicking that, and it's got five microphones here. So we'll just see what ones sound different when you crank the intensity up.
What you came for? When that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it. When you hear the snare hitting to the drums, yeah, we're gonna tear you all up in a rave, yeah, we're killing it. What you came for? When that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it.
Now, the thing about this is, like, depending... Sorry, there's notifications coming through. Should have turned those off. When you use, depending on who the vocalist is, these mics can really, depend on. So there's, like, ones in the other microphone, the classic tubes that I use for myself, that sound really good with my voice. So that's the great thing about having all these options, rather than, like, I've got one mic in my studio and it has to be that. I can pick what mic I want. It doesn't sound like a lot of difference. I'm hearing you saying to my ears in this studio on my focal speakers, these bad boys. I'm really hearing the difference. And obviously, the longer you do this kind of stuff, the more you pick up on the subtle differences, and what that'll end up doing in the chain later on will be a compounded difference. So the more stuff you do, the better the original signal, and the better the quality of the rest of it. So really good compressor is the FG Stress, which sounds like actually I've got the UAD one, which is a bit better, the Distressor compressor. So I'll hold that one off. But they've got some really cool stuff in here. What was I using the other day? But maybe try the Monster compressor. Can't remember what one this is modelled on, but we'll go vocals warm and big. Presets in these are great.
What you came for? When that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it. When you hear the snare hitting to the drums, yeah, we're gonna tear you all up in a rave, yeah, we're killing it. What you came for? When that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits.
So that already sounds really cool, I think. And again, we've not done much. So maybe look at one of the... I mean, they've got a bunch of great EQs. We can maybe put a gate on as well to get rid of some of the just the silence in between the bits. So maybe put this on lead vocal setting. This is the thing with having Apple stuff. Notifications go off everywhere. So, I'm just going to pretend that's not happening.
What you came for? When that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it. When you hear the snare hitting to the drums, yeah, we're gonna tear you all up in a rave, yeah, we're killing it.
So great, that's awesome already. Now you need to be really careful you don't over compress and stuff like that. It's really easy to do. There's actually another really cool plugin in here, which I like, the Saturator, the Bomber. I've got loads of other great saturators, but this one is really cool. So I am going to check out some of the vocal presets.
What you came for? When that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it. When you hear the snare hitting to the drums, yeah, we're gonna tear you all up in a rave, yeah, we're killing it.
The popper one seems to pop out more, ironically, but it's got some fluctuations in the level. I think the impact one was the most solid. Now, if I move that in the chain, how you have things in the chain is really important in your effects. So it means I'm going to compress the saturation and probably bring that out a bit more. So I may have to just twiddle about with some of these settings.
What you came for? When that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it. When you hear the snare hitting to the drums, yeah, we're gonna tear you all up in a rave, yeah, we're killing it.
Good, like that. So yeah, we were talking about distressor. I'm really trying to practice my diction because I know my accent isn't the easiest to follow if you haven't listened to me chat before. So I'm practicing these so I can slow down and everyone can understand me, as well as try to give you some valuable information to help your production. Okay, so yeah, I am looking for, so I'm going to the search here, we're looking for distressor, and it's universal audio power plugin, there it is. Let's just fire that on. Again, just drag and drop, really cool. Again, there's a bunch of presets which are awesome. Go for a vocal bus, vocal tracking, maybe one of these two.
You came for when that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it. When you hear,
So I'm going to go for quite a sharp attack because I want the compression to really snap.
you came for when that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it. When you hear the snare hit into the drums, yeah, we're gonna tear you all up in a rave, yeah, we're killing it.
The great thing, I really like this, having the dry and almost wet, going from compressor to just a dry signal, because you can just, sometimes what I do quite a lot is called parallel compression, so I'll maybe really squash the signal, but then if it's got that option, I will dial the mix in, so you have a balance between the really compressed signal and then the original signal, and it just gives it a different dynamic.
You came for when that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it. When you hear the snare hit into,
Sounding good again, I'm happy with that. What else? I mean, a plugin that I've used religiously over the years is the Vengeance multi-band compressor. Now, you're thinking, how many compressors are you using here? I think you should really be careful with compression because it can be overkill. Trust your ears. If it sounds over squashed and you're struggling to make stuff out, or there's noise coming out, unwanted noise, then you're probably overdoing it. And for instance, I had this compressor when it first came out, and I heard so many good things about it. The Vengeance multi-band compressor. I thought it was terrible because when you load up a preset, it comes in at close to 100%, and then usually everything sounds terrible through it. But again, I didn't even realise I had a mix knob on it, and you can do that parallel compression, which again sounds like a really complicated technique, but all it is just dialing in some of the dry signal against the wet.
you came for when that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it. When you hear the snare hit into the drums, yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah, I mean, the Transmaster one is really good for vocals, I find. If you're looking for that kind of fat.
You came for when that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it.
Again, we're hearing some of the bits coming through we don't want to. Somebody really wants to get a hold of me.
You came for when that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it. When you hear the snare hit into the drums, yeah, we're gonna tear you all up in a rave, yeah, we're killing it. You came for when that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it.
I mean, yeah, be careful. You can really overdo that. It might be good without that, Maybe a little bit overkill. I mean, what I think I will do is probably in the track itself. If it needs anything else, I'll probably crank it up a little bit more. But one more thing I'm going to do before wrapping this up for this section, I am going to smash my phone up because it won't stop ringing. I'm going to just throw another EQ on. I've already done some low cuts, but when you're compressing and putting saturation on, you can pull out frequencies and stuff that's just sitting quietly in the mix. You can pull that out. So I'm just going to check that there's no extra lows just sneaking their way in. And there they are. You can see them all there. So straight away, let's put a cut.
You came for when that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it. When you hear the snare hit into the drums, yeah, we're gonna tear you all up in a rave, yeah, we're killing it.
I mean, that sounds awesome to me so far. We could probably have a look at some de-essing and stuff, but I think it's sounding pretty good.
These are the dubs, so we sack that shit from the music.
Maybe a little bit of de-essing. Now I've got a bunch of de-essing options. I don't know if my RX-7, did I get the de-esser for this? No, I didn't. There we go. That's with the extra one. Let's just see. I'm sure there's a slate option for de-essing. Let's just type in slate. Oh, actually, that Infinite EQ is really cool. That's a new one they've put in. They've got a bunch of really cool plugins. Slate Digital. I did have the pack before. and I sacked it off because I didn't think it was that great. But it's got better and better. And the thing about it, I went and got UAD because it's like the kind of version up almost. But I think Slate have really kind of found their niche where their stuff is a bit. They do stuff that Slate does similar to, but they also do their own stuff, which is cool. So yeah, you've got a bunch of really cool things here. I'm going to go for. We're going to pick a different genre of music and then scroll down and see. I think the metal one had a really cool vocal thing that I used on my own vocal the other day, like an EQ setting. It's BG Enhancer, Clear and Area Monster.
These are the dubs, so we sack that shit from the music. More power stomp than dub core, but the bass is what we all came for. When that bass line rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it.
Love that. So you see here, I mean, I've used a bunch of presets, and don't be scared to use presets if they work. I think understanding what they're doing is important, and I will be showing some more of that kind of stuff in more detailed courses that I'll be doing if you're interested and you want to find out more and you can really get under the hood and see why these things are designed the way they are. Then pay attention because there'll be a lot of courses coming your way from me. So last thing to do, I guess, would be to bounce this down. And we're happy with it. We'll actually create a new track. I'm going to put the input from the vocals. Just record enable and then hit record.
We're making you move in the dance, making you feel so alive in the dark. Yeah, look at my jaw like a pit bull. We're killing it, music and bars. Power stomp with the bass, kicking the fuck out of dubs in the rave. Hold tight to your whole squad, we're lethal, taking you far. Some of you know what to think if the Riot starts. Shit goes south immensely. Was a lethal boy back in the day when the bassline was aggy. Then we had that phase of the dubs, so we sacked that shit from the music. More power stomp than dub core, but the bass is what we all came for. When that bassline rolls, yeah, we're killing it. When the kick drum hits, yeah, we're killing it. When you hear the snare hit into the drums, yeah, we're gonna tear you all up in a rave. Yeah, we're killing it.
So there we go. Sounds really cool. And I'm just going to get rid of that noise at the end. I'm super happy with that. You can see the difference in how the signal looks. So there's the original one with all these kind of spikes and stuff. And you can see how the compression is really flattened that out. So it's going to sit nice in the mix. And it's not overkill because you can see a lot of nice spikes, and the drops, which is the dynamics as he speaks. And you want to keep some of them in. So if you've got, for instance, just a big block, then you're probably overcompressed. You probably see that if you get a track that's been like brickwalled mastered. But this is you want to keep some dynamics. So when it does get mastered in the track, it's not, again, over compressed. So be careful with compression. And thanks for watching. See you soon.